Chapter 21. The Silent River. There was no sound, not the usual hum of insects, not the rustle of leaves, just silence. Jack tried to swallow the lump in his throat, but it only seemed to get bigger. It was unnatural, this quiet, this oppressive stillness that stretched over the river and the surrounding woods. For a moment he thought he was dreaming, but he wasn't. He was wide awake, standing knee-deep in the shallow water of the river, with his friends Lena, Mark, and Sophia, watching the water with unease. "I don't like this," Mark said in a low voice. Jack looked at him, his eyes narrowing. "It's just a river, Mark. What's wrong with it?" Mark was staring at the water, his face pale, his expression locked in horror. "It's too still. There's something wrong with it." Lena stepped closer to the edge, her boots sinking slightly into the soft, wet ground. "You guys are acting like kids. It's a river. It's just—" She stopped mid-sentence, her voice trailing off. Jack felt a chill crawl up his spine as he turned to look at her. She was staring at the water, too, her hand pressed to her mouth like she was holding back a scream. "What is it, Lena?" Jack asked, his voice rising slightly. Lena didn't respond. She just pointed at the river, her finger trembling. Jack looked down, and for the first time he really looked at the water. It was too still, too perfectly still. The surface of the river, which should have been rippling gently with the current, was completely calm. The dark water seemed to stretch endlessly, darker than it should have been for the time of day. It was as if the river had stopped moving entirely, frozen in place. And it wasn't just the water, it was the air around them, the stillness that clung to everything. He could almost feel it, the absence of life. "What's going on?" Sophia whispered from behind them, her voice tight. Jack was about to turn and speak when the water in front of him rippled. At first he thought it was just the wind, but there was no wind, no breeze, no rustling of the trees, nothing. And then the ripples spread in every direction, moving outward, concentric rings that shattered the glassy surface of the water. The river was alive, but that wasn't possible. And then the water began to move. It wasn't just the ripples. The water itself began to twist and churn, as if something beneath the surface was pulling at it, causing it to writhe in unnatural ways. For a moment, Jack thought he saw something, dark shapes undulating beneath the surface, twisting like serpents. Sophia gasped, "What is that?" Before Jack could respond, something erupted from the river. A massive, slick shape shot up from the water with a deafening splash, sending a wave crashing over them. Jack staggered back, his heart pounding in his chest, as a huge, grotesque creature arose from the depths. It was like nothing he'd ever seen before. Its body was long and segmented, its scales gleaming in the dim light, its head massive, eyes glowing yellow with malice, a mouth full of rows of jagged teeth. It was a thing born of nightmares. Without thinking, Jack reached for the axe strapped to his back. "Get back!" he shouted, his voice cracking with panic. "Get away from the river!" But the creature was fast. It slithered through the water with terrifying speed, its mouth opening wide as it hissed at them, spraying a foul-smelling liquid into the air. The stench made Jack gag, but there was no time to hesitate. They had to fight. "Lena!" Jack shouted. "Mark! Sophia! Get ready!" Mark grabbed a branch lying on the ground, swinging it wildly at the creature. The wood cracked against its scaled hide, but it barely seemed to notice. Lena pulled out her knife, her eyes filled with desperation as she prepared to strike. The creature lunged. Sophia screamed as the creature's massive mouth shot forward, its jaws snapping shut with an audible click just inches from her face.
Jack leaped into action, charging at the creature with his axe raised high. He swung it down towards the creature's thick hide, the blade sinking into its body with a sickening thud. It screamed. The sound was worse than anything Jack had ever heard, a bone-chilling screech that seemed to vibrate the air itself. The creature thrashed wildly, knocking Jack off his feet. His head hit the ground hard, and for a moment everything went dark. When Jack came to, his vision was blurry, his body aching. He could hear the sounds of struggling, shouting. His friends were still fighting, but something was wrong. The air had thickened, the stench of decay was stronger now, and the ground beneath him seemed to tremble. It wasn't just the creature that was moving, it was the entire river, alive with an unnatural force. The creature turned towards him, its eyes glowing brighter, its mouth opening wide. But it wasn't coming toward him. No, it was looking at Lena. Lena. Jack pushed himself to his feet, ignoring the pain in his limbs as he sprinted towards her, yelling her name. "Lena!" he shouted. "Get away!" But it was too late. The creature shot forward again, its mouth wide, and with one swift movement it engulfed her in its terrible maw. Jack reached out in desperation, but it was useless. Lena was gone. "No!" Jack shouted, his voice raw. He ran towards the creature, his hands shaking, the rage boiling inside him. "Lena!" Mark cried, his face pale with horror. Jack gritted his teeth. He wouldn't let this thing take any more of them. He swung the axe again, this time aiming for the creature's head, where its eyes burned with malice. The creature screamed again, its body writhing in pain as the axe sank deep into its skull. But it didn't stop. The creature's skin began to repair itself, the wound closing up as if the monster's flesh were alive, breathing, healing itself. "What the hell?" Jack muttered, his breath ragged. "We need something stronger," Mark said, his voice grim. "This thing won't die." Sophia, who had been frozen in shock, finally pulled herself together. "We need to destroy the river," she said, her voice fierce. Jack nodded. They had no choice. The river itself was the source of this nightmare. He turned towards the water, trying to think of a plan. The creature wasn't the only thing that had changed in the river. The water itself had become thick, viscous, as though something dark and malignant had infected it. "What if we burn it?" Jack said, his voice almost a whisper. Mark's eyes widened. "Fire? You're insane!" Jack's gaze was hard as he looked down at the river, the water now frothing with a dark, almost sentient energy. "It's the only way." The final battle took place at the edge of the river. They worked together, throwing whatever they had at the creature and the water itself. They had no choice but to destroy the source of the monster's power. And as the creature thrashed in pain, the water began to recede, the dark energy weakening. Finally, with one final swing of his axe, Jack struck the river itself, cleaving through the source of the evil that had overtaken it. The creature let out one last terrible screech, its body spasming violently, and then it was gone. The river grew still. But in the distance, as the sun began to set, Jack could have sworn he saw something moving in the water once more.
Thank you for listening to this story. Your support means a lot and helps keep these tales coming. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to subscribe and follow for more dark and immersive stories just like this one. New horrors await. Don't miss what's coming next.